I actually got some kids to make this for me, just about our unit of work this year, and that survey, if it makes a difference, was actually done before we did our unit of work as well. So we'd done some game making stuff, but not as much as we had done after that. So I just spoke about the difference between last year and this year. So we just started playing with it for the first 2 weeks and set it as part of their homework tasks, and we just used these hints on the side, and they really enjoyed just playing with it. And then we also, you know, showed them skills about how they can go onto YouTube and how to make different sorts of games. So they were making maze games, and they were making things falling, and just different types of games, which helped them then with their planning. So we didn't do Screen It this year. I sort of pushed for game making and how valuable it was. So we linked it with their knowledge, I don't know if you could read it up the top, but about energy, so renewable sources, and we gave them the theme Back to the Future. So their games had to show elements of both of those things, and then they went through the planning and had to get it approved. And then this was our links with literacy. So they had to do character profiles and storyboards and things like that, and they did a couple of drafts with them before doing their good copies, just to really elaborate on how they designed their characters and why they had certain aspects. And all their games had to include a story sort of pre-game, so we understood the context of it. We worked in partners this year instead of in groups of 3, which worked a lot better with engagement, and we were just sort of lucky that we could get that many computers together. But what we got them to do is, at the start of each lesson, write down what each of them were going to do. So in the top one, Jenny's finishing the storyboard, and Jasara's creating the characters on the computer. So they all had a clear goal of what they were going to achieve that lesson, and then they wrote a reflection about it. The reflections, and we always made time for reflections in our game making sessions, which was a really good time to talk to them about their challenges and how they overcame them, and also how they were helping each other out, because all these experts were popping out all over the place and they could really help each other, which is great. And that's just an example of one of their finished products, Energy Adventures. Most of them were sort of based around how using coal is really bad and how they should be using solar energy, and they'd go through levels and collect different panels to make solar energy or something like that. And it was really funny. A lot of them had Julia Gillard in it. I'm not sure why, but as like the villain. I should have put that character profile in. It was a good one. And then they reflected on their game making experience. So on the teamwork challenges, how they helped others, what they enjoyed. And these were just highlights for me and for the kids. I sort of spoke to them about it while we did it. So the students were leading their own learning, which is what I really love about game making, that you are sort of more the facilitator, that they're teaching each other, the collaboration between them. I found it really interesting as well. We said grade 5s have to work with a grade 6, so they weren't necessarily with their best friend, and they had to really be able to communicate just things that came up. Like I had one kid that was doing all of the work, and I said to him, well, what are you going to do about it? And he sat there with his partner and said, I feel like I'm doing all the work and you need to step up. So it's really good for their interpersonal skills, which I think is fantastic. And just the working through challenges. Challenges would come up every single day and they'd get really frustrated, but it was a great chance to talk about resilience and how you can work through things. And the creativity, it was amazing what they could come up with, and it was a great chance for those kids to shine that we spoke about before, that aren't necessarily really academic, but they really thrived in this. And there's really easy links with our inquiry sort of unit with science and literacy and numeracy. our biggest challenges were computers. We have bring your own device. So most kids this year have iPads, and not many of them rent the school's netbooks. So we're using old netbooks, and they were literally falling apart. So unless the kids were saving them to a USB, which we encouraged them to do, but they weren't always doing, one day their computer could not turn on. We'd send it down to help desk, but it might not come back for another month. So a couple of them had to restart their game a fair few times. I didn't find teacher and parent interest and support that much of a challenge this year, but I know that Tim did, so I just thought it was worth mentioning. I think he had to really push to get something like this happening within the school. And we did an excursion to Acme and did something, they were talking about game making, and I realised still the perception that parents have, because they were talking about how fantastic game making is, and the parents were saying, I just had a fight with my kid on the weekend about how they shouldn't be spending so much time on games. So I think that we do need to educate parents a bit more about how games can be beneficial for their learning, because a lot of them still don't see it like that. And in terms of teachers, it was really easy to get them on board to say, yes, we should all do game making. But I think talking to you guys and seeing the difference in our school is they just wanted me to do everything. They were like, we can do it, but you have to show us what to do. And I don't really know what I'm doing, but I sort of will try and figure it out as I go. So I think that makes it hard. There's not a lot of collaboration, and we just do this game making unit. And what I would like to do in the future is integrate it more in different topics across the year, in history or whatever it is. But I would find that really hard to do by myself, because teachers are still quite scared, or I don't really know much about games, so I don't feel comfortable with planning for it. So I think that's still a challenge. They're willing to give it a go as long as you do it. Yeah, and that's it.